Okay, so you want to build the world's tallest skyscraper. You find the right piece of land, hire the best people in the business, stack luxury homes, hotel rooms, offices, restaurants, and observation decks into the sky, and then charge a premium because nobody else can offer the same address. The higher the floor, the better the view. The better the view, the higher the price. Keep going long enough and eventually the building becomes famous enough to market itself. That is the attractive version. The problem is that the last part of a world record skyscraper is usually the hardest part to build and the worst part to treat like ordinary real estate. The floor plates get smaller. The structure gets more demanding. Elevators consume more of the building. Mechanical systems take over entire levels. Then, near the top, you can spend an extraordinary amount of money, creating height that contains no normal apartment, office, or hotel room at all. Burj Khalifa rises 828 meters above Dubai. It remains the tallest completed building in the world. But the real question is not how anyone managed to build that high. It is why they kept going after height stopped producing normal floors. Because somewhere between a profitable tower and the world record, the developer had to keep approving more concrete, more steel, more elevators, more testing, more time, and more risk for less conventional space. At some point, another apartment was no longer the main prize. Something else had to justify the climb. Start with the number everyone sees. 828 meters. Most people picture that as 828 meters of rooms. A giant stack of saleable space. One floor placed on top of another. But the official architectural height runs to the permanent architectural top. It does not mean every meter works the same way economically. The upper part of the tower includes mechanical areas, communications equipment, structural elements, access space, and eventually a long architectural spire. That spire matters enormously to the record. It does not create another neighborhood of penthouses. This is not a technical complaint about how height is measured. The record is legitimate under the recognized rules. The economic point is what the developer receives in return. A normal floor can be sold, leased, or operated. A mechanical level keeps the building alive, but does not earn ordinary rent. A spire can change the identity of the entire project while containing almost none of the product people normally associate with property development. So the first strange discovery is simple. The tallest part of the tallest building is valuable, partly because nobody can occupy it. That scarcity creates something normal floor area cannot. Only one completed building can hold the recognized world record. A developer can build another luxury tower. Another company can open another hotel. Another city can add more offices. But there is only one tallest completed building at any given moment. The title creates headlines, photographs, tourism, prestige, and recognition. It also creates a dangerous calculation. Once a tower is already extremely tall, the next increment of height may add more fame than usable space. The building becomes stronger as a symbol while becoming weaker as a simple stack of rooms. You can see that fight in the shape. Burj Khalifa does not rise as one enormous rectangular box. 3 wings support a central core, and the tower steps inward again and again as it climbs. Those setbacks create the silhouette people recognize, but they also mean the upper floors get smaller. The shape is doing real work. At this height, wind is not background weather. It is one of the main forces the project has to survive. The changing profile disrupts the way wind organizes itself around the tower, while the 3 wings brace the central structure. That is enough engineering to understand the economics. Every meter of height has to survive the wind. Every occupied floor has to be reached. Every room needs water, electricity, cooling, fire protection, and a way out. And all of those systems compete for the same floor area the developer is trying to sell. Elevators make the problem visible. In a shorter building, a few shafts can connect the lobby with the floors above. In a super tall tower, sending every elevator from the ground to every destination would consume an enormous amount of space. So the tower uses different elevator zones and transfer levels, including sky lobbies, where people change elevators partway up. That saves space. It does not make the problem disappear. The machine that carries customers to the product still occupies part of the product. Now imagine being responsible for the project while that tower is rising. The concrete has started. The foundations are committed. Contractors are mobilized. Buyers and hotel operators are waiting on a building that does not exist yet. You cannot earn the full value of the finished tower, but the project keeps demanding decisions. Do you approve the next section? Do you keep the record height? Do you keep paying for the shape, the facade, the vertical systems, and the final stretch that produces the title? Construction began in 2004. Burj Khalifa opened in January of 2010. The project required roughly 330,000 cubic meters of concrete and around 22 million work hours. The commonly reported construction estimate is approximately $1.5 billion in the money of the period. That number sounds like the answer to what the tower cost. It is really the beginning of the answer. It is a reported construction estimate, not a complete public account of every dollar required to make the project economically useful. Land has value. Design and testing take years. Financing has a cost. Roads, utilities, public space, sales, marketing, insurance, approvals, and the surrounding district all have their own bills. Then the completed tower needs maintenance, security, cooling, pumps, elevators, replacement parts, facade access, and specialized crews for as long as it remains open. The important cost is not only the money spent, it is the amount of time that money has to remain committed before the idea becomes a working place. A developer can make a sensible decision in one market and open the finished building in a completely different one. Buyers can disappear. Credit can tighten. Tourism can fall. Competing property can come online. The project cannot shrink halfway through because the market changed its mind. The concrete keeps the old decision visible, so the building needs more than one way to earn money. Burj Khalifa is not one enormous business. It is several businesses sharing one vertical structure. A hotel guest buys a few nights inside the landmark. A resident buys a home and the right to use the address. A company buys or leases corporate space. Diners pay for the setting and the view. Visitors buy observation experiences that let the tower sell the same height over and over again without selling the room itself. That last category changes the logic. An apartment can be sold once. An observation experience can sell access to the same upper level again tomorrow. The visitor is not paying for ownership. The visitor is paying to stand inside the record for an hour. Height has become an attraction. Mixed use also protects the project from depending on one giant customer pool. An all-office tower needs an extraordinary number of companies. An all-residential tower needs deep demand from buyers. An all-hotel tower needs rooms filled night after night. Burj Khalifa divides the building among different users with different reasons to pay. But mixed use is not free diversification. Each use needs its own circulation, security, services, entrances, elevators, staffing, and operating standards. The hotel guest, resident, office worker, restaurant customer, and observation visitor may share the same silhouette, but they do not move through the building in the same way. The tower earns money by stacking customers. Picture the building over a single day. A hotel guest wakes up inside the landmark and pays for a temporary experience. A resident leaves through a different route because home is not supposed to feel like a hotel lobby. An office worker arrives with a security pass and needs predictable access to a corporate floor. Later, a visitor buys a trip upward, spends less than an hour looking over the city, and leaves without ever entering the residential or office sections. By evening, diners are paying for a table whose value comes partly from where the table sits. All of them are buying the tower. None of them are buying the same thing. That creates scene after scene of revenue, but it also creates a vertical traffic problem. The hotel needs back-of-house service. Residents need privacy. Offices need security. Tourists need high-volume circulation. Restaurants need deliveries, kitchens, staff access, and customers arriving at the right level. Put all of that in one enormous building, and the developer has not eliminated complexity. It has concentrated it. This is why the mixed-use answer is clever without being magical. Different customers reduce dependence on one market, but every new customer type brings another operating system with it. It also spends money keeping them apart, and the building never stops behaving like a mega project. More than 20,000 windows or glazed panels cover the exterior, depending on how they are counted. Cleaning the full facade reportedly takes roughly 3 to 4 months under normal conditions. Crews work from specialized equipment hundreds of meters above the ground, moving across a surface so large that finishing one cycle can take an entire season. By the time the ribbon is cut, the construction problem has not ended. It has changed departments. The elevators keep moving, pumps keep lifting water. Mechanical systems keep cooling different sections of a building that never faces the same conditions from bottom to top. Security remains. Fire systems remain. Specialized parts wear out. Some of those costs can be charged to owners, residents, tenants, or operators through service arrangements. But that does not make the building cheaper to run. It only decides who receives the bill. This is where a visible sign of success can become misleading. A lobby can be busy. The observation levels can be crowded. Restaurants can have customers. Lights can be on across the facade. None of that tells you how the original construction cost, financing, maintenance, hotel operations, privately owned residences, corporate space, and public attractions fit together financially. A tower can be full of activity without every part of the system producing the same return. The hotel may have a strong week while office demand is weak. Observation tickets may sell while a residence sits on the market. An owner or occupier may absorb service charges that never appear in the developer's operating accounts. A restaurant can benefit from the landmark while the cost of maintaining the structure sits somewhere else. This is why the exact tower-level income matters so much, and why its absence matters later. The building is visible from miles away. Its full financial statement is not, and then the market underneath the tower broke. Burj Khalifa had been rising through years of rapid development in Dubai. Then the global financial crisis hit. Property prices fell, capital pulled back, heavily leveraged Dubai-related entities faced repayment pressure. Abu Dhabi extended Dubai a financial lifeline totaling $20 billion during the crisis. The tower was still approaching opening day. That is the scene worth holding for a moment. The structure had reached the sky. The record was effectively there. Hotel rooms, residences, offices, restaurants, and observation levels had been built into the building. But the people expected to pay for those things were looking at a very different market from the one that existed when construction began. Burj Khalifa opened in January of 2010. At the ceremony, the building that had been known during development as Burj Dubai opened as Burj Khalifa, honoring the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The world saw fireworks around the tallest completed building on Earth. The property market saw something else. Contemporary reporting described falling rents, vacancies, and weak demand around the opening period. The exact figures varied by date, source, and type of space, and they do not describe the tower forever, but they prove one thing the record could not change. Fame does not force a buyer to have money. The tower was physically complete, the view was still exceptional, the address was still unique, none of that removed the timing risk. A building can win the height record on opening day and still need years of demand to justify the decisions made before the first foundation was poured. This is where completion becomes a misleading sign of success. A finished tower proves that the engineering, contracting, labor, materials, and institutions held together long enough to open it. It does not reveal a tower-level profit. Burj Khalifa does not publish a complete standalone income statement showing exactly what it earns, what it costs to operate, or when the original investment paid back. So anybody claiming to know the exact return is pretending the missing numbers are not missing. What we can see are the mechanisms. Homes can be sold, offices can be sold or leased, hotel rooms can be booked, restaurants can trade on the address, observation experiences can charge for access, events and displays can use the building's visibility. What we cannot honestly do is add a few public prices together and declare the world's tallest building profitable or unprofitable as a standalone object. That uncertainty creates the next question. If the tower's own financial return is not publicly clear, and if the highest meters create little ordinary floor space, why did the developer keep paying for the record? One possible answer is prestige. But prestige alone is not enough. Prestige does not pay a construction invoice. It matters only when somebody can convert it into transactions. And before we see where those transactions happen, look at the tower trying to take the record away. Jeddah Tower is designed to exceed 1,000 meters and surpass Burj Khalifa if completed. It was also intended as the centerpiece of a much larger urban development. Construction began, then paused for years. In October of 2024, Kingdom Holding announced a new agreement to complete the project, and construction later resumed. Its eventual completion date remains a forecast. The lesson is not that the tower cannot be built. The lesson is that a buildable design can still become an interrupted project. Concrete can remain in the ground while contracts change. A partial tower can stand while capital waits. Contractors, institutions, buyers, infrastructure, and the surrounding development all have to remain aligned for years. The taller the promise, the longer that chain becomes. Burj Khalifa completed that chain through a financial crisis, but surviving construction still does not explain why the final height was worth buying. For that, move away from the upper floors and look at what sits around the base. Burj Khalifa is not standing alone on an isolated parcel while unrelated property owners collect the benefits. It sits at the center of downtown Dubai, surrounded by Dubai Mall, hotels, residences, offices, restaurants, public spaces, the fountain, and other attractions. Emaar was not only responsible for the tower, it was the master developer associated with much of the surrounding destination. Now the unit of the project changes. Imagine that a developer builds the world's tallest tower and owns nothing meaningful around it. The tower becomes famous. Tourists arrive. Nearby hotels sell rooms with views of it. Restaurants fill before the evening shows. Apartments across the street advertise the landmark from their balconies. Shops benefit from the crowds. Land nearby becomes easier to market. The tower created all of that attention. But the developer that paid for the record may capture only the money earned inside the tower. Now change one thing. The same developer also has economic interests across the district. It develops residences, leases commercial space, benefits from hospitality, attracts retailers, and turns the area around the landmark into a destination rather than a single address. The height has not changed. Who gets paid has. That is the distinction that makes the last meters of Burj Khalifa easier to understand. The tower has direct businesses inside it, but the world record also gives the surrounding locations something that cannot be copied across the street. A globally unique identity. The highest part of the building may produce little ordinary rent, but it can make apartments below it easier to sell, observation tickets easier to market, hotel stays more memorable, nearby property more recognizable, and an entire district harder to ignore. The top does not need to contain the transaction to influence it. Follow one visitor through the district and the idea becomes easier to see. The person may come because of the tower, buy an observation ticket, eat nearby, walk through the mall, watch the fountain, stay in a hotel, or decide that an apartment overlooking the landmark feels more valuable than a similar apartment somewhere else. The tower begins the trip, but the spending spreads outward. That does not mean every visitor follows the same path. It means the project has more places where attention can become money. Emir's wider business still reflects that broader model. In 2025, the company reported 10.5 billion UAE dirhams in recurring revenue across malls, hospitality, leisure, entertainment, commercial leasing and related categories. That is a company-wide figure, not Burj Khalifa revenue, and it does not prove the tower's standalone return. What it does show is that the developer's economic world extends far beyond selling units inside one building. This does not prove that every increase in downtown Dubai's value came from Burj Khalifa. Dubai's airline connections, infrastructure, tourism strategy, safety, migration, hotels, shopping and broader reputation all matter. It also does not prove that Emir owns every business, room or residence surrounding the tower. The narrower conclusion is stronger. A record-setting landmark has a better economic chance when the organization paying for it can participate in the activity the landmark creates outside its own walls. That is why two identical towers could produce two completely different outcomes. One sits alone, pays for the attention, and watches nearby owners collect much of the benefit. The other anchors a district designed to turn that attention into home sales, hotel stays, retail visits, restaurant spending, office demand, and repeat tourism. In the second model, the final height begins to act like a marketing expense for a much larger product. An exceptionally expensive marketing expense, but one no competitor can duplicate without taking the world record away. That also explains why the visible signs can mislead. A crowded observation deck does not prove the whole tower earns an adequate return. A sold apartment does not reveal the cost of maintaining the structure. Fireworks do not show debt. A famous skyline does not show who captured the surrounding increase in demand. The record is valuable only when the flows around it continue. Residents need to want the address. Companies need to want the location. Tourists need to keep arriving. Hotel guests need to book. Retailers need customers. Infrastructure needs to keep the district accessible. The city needs to remain attractive to the people and capital the project was built to serve. The building cannot control all of those variables. Put the same tower in a city without enough buyers, hotel guests, companies, tourists, retail demand, or supporting infrastructure, and the structure does not become cheaper out of sympathy. The same elevators are still needed. The same facade still hangs in the sky. The same mechanical systems still serve a building whose customers may never arrive in sufficient numbers. Now put it in a city where international visitors already come, where property buyers are willing to pay for a globally recognized address, where a major shopping and hospitality district surrounds the tower, and where the developer can participate in more than one kind of transaction. The physical building can be identical while the economic outcome changes completely. That is why copying the height is easier than copying the conditions around it. The building cannot control all of those conditions after opening either. A change in tourism, credit, migration, property demand, or confidence can weaken several revenue sources at once. The tower remains 828 meters tall, but the market underneath the record can expand or contract without asking the building for permission. That is the main structural risk. The hardest part of the project is made of concrete, but the reason it works is made of demand. So, does it make economic sense to build the world's tallest skyscraper? It can, but not because every extra meter creates another premium floor. The model works when the city has deep international demand, when the tower serves several different customers, when financing can survive a long construction period, when the operating systems can be maintained, and when the developer has a way to capture value across the destination the record helps create. Remove those conditions and the same height becomes a burden. The floor plates still narrow, the elevators still occupy space, the facade still needs crews, the project still carries years of decisions made before the market revealed whether it agreed. Burj Khalifa survived that test because the bet was larger than the tower. The developer was not only trying to sell space at extraordinary height, it was paying to make one district instantly identifiable anywhere in the world, then relying on Dubai to keep converting that identity into visits, bookings, sales, leases, and long-term demand. That is what the last meters were for, not another ordinary floor, the right to make an entire location famous.